What is going on, everybody? And yes, it is now official, although everybody pretty much saw this coming. This October, we will be getting the Uncharted Nathan Drake Collection on the PlayStation 4. Although the name is kind of funny. The Nathan Drake Collection, that's assuming that there are Uncharted games that don't have Nathan Drake, which is untrue. He's been in all 4 Uncharted games. Unless there's going to be future games that don't have him in it, which is interesting. That's maybe some foreshadowing there. I don't know. We will have to wait and see when Uncharted 4 comes out. But yes, this is finally coming out on the PlayStation 4 with updated visuals and other features, and should be interesting. I'm actually happy that this is coming out. Not only because the Uncharted series is probably one of my favorite gaming series of all time. I platinumed every single Uncharted game. And it was the first, Uncharted 1 was the first PlayStation 3 game I ever played. It was the game that really, really made me get a PlayStation 3 in 2009 because I wanted to experience the series. And I've been hooked on every game ever since. And I've enjoyed every single installment. So not only am I happy this is coming out because I will be able to enjoy these games again, but with upgraded visuals, this is also good for people who, last generation, were on the Xbox 360. They chose Microsoft and the Xbox 360, and they missed out on the Uncharted games. Now they will be able to experience these games on the PlayStation 4, but with better graphics. So that should be really cool for them. Like, for example, my older brother, he had an Xbox 360 and never got a PlayStation 3, but he's always enjoyed seeing me play the Uncharted games. Now he will be able to play himself on the PlayStation 4 since he now has a PlayStation 4. So this is really cool. I'm really looking forward to this, and I now understand why Naughty Dog delayed Uncharted 4, because they're going to release this, and this gives everybody ample time to get caught up with the series in preparation for Uncharted 4. Now I see why, or at least one of the reasons why they delayed Uncharted 4. It kind of makes sense now, in my opinion. But apparently there's an uproar about this, and it's not your normal, oh, I hate remaster games uproar. Apparently these games, the Uncharted Collection, will not be having the multiplayer of the games. And when I first heard about this, I'm like, that's interesting. Why would you not include the multiplayer? Because the Master Chief Collection came out, and it had multiplayer of every single Halo game on there, so I don't understand why they would not include the multiplayer. It's kind of weird. But then I started thinking about it. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized, this is actually not a bad thing. This really isn't. And because the main reason is because Uncharted series has never been about the multiplayer. Hell, when the first Uncharted game came out, it did not have multiplayer. Multiplayer did not get introduced in the Uncharted series until Uncharted 2. And I remember when Uncharted 2 was first announced, and they first announced it was going to have multiplayer, I remember a lot of people thinking back then, why are they adding multiplayer to Uncharted? Why are they tacking on multiplayer to Uncharted? It doesn't need multiplayer. Not every game needs multiplayer. That's what everyone was saying back then, or at least most people. I remember, and then they started adding multiplayer to formerly non-multiplayer games like Assassin's Creed. It was seemingly becoming a trend back then, where they were just adding multiplayer to everything. And that's why I find it funny how people are complaining about this now, when originally this was never supposed to be a multiplayer-focused series. And it really still isn't. Most people, when they buy the Uncharted games, they are not buying it for multiplayer. They are buying it for single player. I guarantee you, if there was some way to find out percentages and statistics of how much time people spent in the single player versus the multiplayer, I guarantee you the single player will outweigh the multiplayer. I mean, me personally, I played Uncharted 2's multiplayer. It wasn't bad. I thought it was pretty decent. It was nothing I would play for hours on end and constantly play months and months down the road. But it was fun for a little bit. To me, it was not one of those long-lasting multiplayers. And then I played Uncharted 3's multiplayer, and I thought that was crap. I thought Uncharted 3's multiplayer was not that great at all. I mean, I don't know. I can't really tell you what they changed because I didn't have enough experience with Uncharted 2's multiplayer, but it just didn't feel as good. That's all I can really say. I just did not get into it. I buy the Uncharted games for the single player because that is the strong point of the series, is the characters, Nathan, Elena, Chloe, Sully. Very, very, really good characters, amazing story. That is why people buy this game. They don't buy this game for the multiplayer. And another thing, and what a lot of people don't realize, Naughty Dog has nothing to do with this remaster collection. They have nothing to do with it. This is all being done by Blue Point Games. And ironically, the Master Chief Collection, as we all know, had its fair share of problems with its multiplayer. 343 Industries did not work entirely on the Master Chief Collection. It was actually outsourced to several different developers. That is why it had all those issues. So, who's to say that these same type of issues might have happened if they were to include the multiplayer in this collection, the same type of issues might have happened because Naughty Dog is doing nothing with this. They are doing nothing with this. So if you were looking for the Naughty Dog multiplayer experience, you weren't going to get it here. You're not going to get it here if they were to include it. And not only that, and people, be honest. Let's be honest here. If you really, really desperately wanted to play the Uncharted multiplayer, you would have taken the steps by now to play that multiplayer. If you already own a PS3, you've had ample opportunity to play the multiplayer. If you've never owned a PS3, you can always go on PlayStation 4 and use the PlayStation Now, and I'm going to assume that the multiplayer for Uncharted is in the PlayStation Now versions of the game. I could be wrong. Someone can let me know about that. I'm just assuming, because all PlayStation Now is just letting you play the PS3 port of games, so I'm just assuming the multiplayer is included with that, but that's beside the point. You've had ample opportunity to play the multiplayer by now. You've had plenty of time. And not only that, I'm sure you've also looked up footage of the multiplayer. Is that something you see yourself playing many, many months down the road after this collection launches? Because the population for Uncharted 2 and 3's multiplayer did not sustain, unlike other multiplayer games. It does not have a critically acclaimed multiplayer. And that doesn't mean it's bad. That just means it wasn't as popular as other multiplayer games. So, in hindsight, why should, I guess, Sony or Blue Point Games waste all their resources and money on servers and other things they need for the multiplayer that most people aren't going to play? And they're not going to be playing months down the road after it launches. I'm sure people will try it out for a little bit, but then they'll stop playing. That's what a lot of people did with the Uncharted multiplayer. They played it for a little bit when the game was new, and then they stopped playing. So, I don't know why would they waste their money and resources on that? That's why I'm perfectly fine with them just focusing on remastering the single-player campaigns, because that is why the majority of people buy the Uncharted games. That is why the majority of people play the Uncharted games. And you know what? That's also including the upcoming Uncharted 4. Most people are going to be playing Uncharted 4 for the single player. The multiplayer is just an add-on. And wouldn't you want Sony and Naughty Dog and whoever else to focus more time on Uncharted 4 than worrying about a remastered 4-year-old multiplayer? I mean, I'd rather them work on the newer game, personally, to make sure that has no issues and that runs as smoothly as possible. I'd rather them work on that. And you know what's also funny is a lot of people keep complaining about remaster games and how this generation is filled with nothing but remaster games and all that stuff. But then they'll turn around and complain about not having a remastered 5-year-old multiplayer. To me, that doesn't make a lot of sense. It really doesn't. So, I don't see what the big deal is. I really don't. I mean, and if any of you are that desperate to play the multiplayer, it's out right now on PlayStation 3. It's very easy to... It has very easy access. if you're that desperate to play the multiplayer. But honestly, if you want my opinion, you're not missing one of the greatest multiplayer experiences of all time. You're really not. It was just decent at best, in my opinion. So, alright. Once again, I don't see what the big deal is, but it is what it is. Let me know what you think, and I will talk to y'all later. Have a good one.